to Satsang. So wonderful to have you all here. We start usually with a question that comes in from our family joining us from all over the world online, and they send in questions on the website or social media or email or whatever. So we take one of them to begin, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone here in the middle, so anyone who has any questions, feel free to just come to the mic, share your name, and share your question. I returned home to the UK after a trip to Rishikesh a few weeks ago, and I feel as though I have left my heart in Rishikesh. I had such a profound experience in India. I felt at home there, and I feel totally not at home in the UK. I have stayed connected to Parmarth by following the live events, but I long to return. I have joined local Hindu temples and organizations, but how do I overcome this sense of longing and missing home? And this is asked by Sarah from UK. So this is actually a really common, a really beautiful thing that arises for so many people, which is, it's not a missing the way that when you go on holiday and you go to the beach and you enjoy being at the beach and you rest and relax and then you go back to work and you miss being on holiday. It's not that type of missing. It's a much deeper experience of missing. And what that is what happens is that most of us, as we move through our world, we're living in a show. We're not able to really be our true selves. We're not able to share our true selves with the world. We're not deeply connected to ourselves, to others, to the divine. When they come to a place like this, and you find yourself in a world in which the very truth of who you are, the very core of who you are, is being seen, is being recognized, is being nourished, is being nurtured by people, in which in yoga, in meditation, in yagna, in arti, in satsang, or in darshan, or even just in meal times, whatever it is that you feel like you are so deeply connected to that truth of yourself. That's the role that Sangha plays. This that we call here satsang, we use it colloquially to just mean our question-answer session, our meditation, our spiritual gathering. But satsang literally is in the association of truth. Sat is truth. But the association is the important part. That sang, that sangha, means the community, really. Literally it's the association, the presence of, but it's a community. And if you ever doubt the importance of a community, look at the Buddhist tradition, where in their fundamental prayer, they bow to three things. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. I bow to the Buddha, to the awakened one. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. I bow to the Dharma, to the way, to the teachings. And Sangham sharanam gacchami. I bow, I take refuge in the Sangha. So that power of association is huge. And going from a place like this, where everyone's on a spiritual path. Paths are different. People are at different checkpoints on the path. But everybody is here because they have made a conscious choice to walk this path. There's a reason people are in Rishikesh instead of, at a bar in Delhi or a bar in Paris. Something has drawn them here. And so you're in an association of people who are walking a spiritual path. Maybe they've just started. Maybe they're a bit into it. Maybe they're struggling. But they're all committed to the path in their own way. And that's a really powerful place to be, both literally and also in your own heart. And also to be in a place in which all day long, you're being constantly reminded. You wake up, there's morning prayers that, regardless of where you are in the ashram, you can hear them. We gather for yajna. Hopefully you go down to the banks of Ganga, you have some meditation, you have a bath. Hopefully you're taking a yoga class or two, a meditation class or two, a philosophy class or two. In the evening, we gather for the arti, the satsang. People have Pujya Swamiji's darshan, sit in community here, there. And then you go back to a place where all anybody seems to be focused on is making money, getting ahead, pushing everybody out of the way. Whether you're pushing somebody out of the way literally to get on the subway, or you're pushing somebody out of the way so that you can be the one who gets ahead in the office, in the company. It's no wonder, our sister Sarah, that you miss being here. And obviously you're always welcome, just keep coming back. But until and unless you decide that you want to live here, the goal is to create that sense of Sangha where you are. And it's not going to be everybody. But find a group of people. It may not be 100. It may be 2, it may be 3, it may be 5. And it's not going to come just from joining the Hindu temples. It's a great thing to do. You'll definitely feel a bit of that beautiful bhav, that energy. Go for the holidays, go for the arti, go for the kirtan. But you need a sangha that's actually seeing you, recognizing you, supporting you on your path. And so really look for that. And it may be a couple people you meet at the Hindu temple. It may be people you meet in a meditation class or a yoga class. It may be people you meet serving together at a soup kitchen, or at an orphanage, or repainting a battered women's shelter, or whatever it is. But just get a sangha who feel like your people, with whom you can talk about your spiritual practice, with whom you meditate, with whom you can talk about how difficult it is to be surrounded by people all day long who are just focused on getting ahead. And then keep coming back to recharge your batteries. As you mentioned, you're joining us online, so that's wonderful. But create that sangha there, because it's a beautiful gift to have this technology to connect, but it's not enough. You should have people who are right there with you, who you can take a walk with, meditate with, chant with, pray with, and talk about your spiritual practice together. Yeah. Other questions? Yes. Yes, okay, sorry. We promised we were going to start with this, and then yes. You are right. Last night we promised we would start here.
Yeah. So for people who were not here yesterday, there was a gentleman that asked about
You don't have to, don't worry about it. Your question actually is beautiful, standalone in and of itself.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's about like when you go to astrologists sometimes, they tell you that you have punyam papas and past karmas, and then you should do a puja and correct that in some way. So I was wondering, what are the thoughts about this specific pujas?
Great. So when you go to an astrologer, frequently when you go to an astrologer, they will tell you, oh, you're going to struggle in this life with A, B, and C, because from your past life you have this, what we call pap and punya, means merit and demerit. I don't like the word sin, but you could think about things that you've done that were not so skillful, that were not so conscious, that are going to give you demerits. That's the pap. And then punya are the things that you did that were conscious, that were skillful, that were loving, that were good, that brought goodness to others. Pap is that which we do which brings harm to others, either in their lives or in their hearts or in their minds. And so the astrologers will tell you, as she said frequently, you have to do this puja or that puja to shift the energy of your past karma. So, first of all, let's look at the astrology part of it, and then let's look at the puja part of it. Because the astrology piece in and of itself is a question, because if we're going to do the puja, we have to even believe in the astrologer. Astrology is actually a beautiful science. And for me, as a scientist, I believe in it because you watch the ocean with high tides and low tides. Nobody refutes that. Nobody says, oh no, that's not true. And we know that the thing that causes high tide and low tide in an ocean is the magnetic pull of the moon and the earth. Now, I don't know how many billions of liters of water there are in the oceans, or trillions of liters of water, but it's a lot, right? I mean, we can all agree there's a lot of water in the ocean. And the magnetic pull between the moon and the earth is enough to move that lots of water between low tide and high tide. And if you've ever lived on the shore, on a beach somewhere, you see the difference. I mean, it's 20-foot difference sometimes, 30-foot difference, 50-foot difference. Tons of water is being moved in high tide and low tide. The human body is between about 60 and 90% water, depending on how old you are and how well hydrated you are. The idea that the pull between the moon and the earth is strong enough to move the ocean, but doesn't have any impact on the water in our bodies, to me makes no sense from a science standpoint. So I believe it not just spiritually, but I believe it scientifically. And then, of course, you have all of the other planets and their pulls. However, like astronomy, like oceanography, like any science, astrology is a science, and it has to be done by someone who knows what they are doing. They look at when you were born, exactly when you were born, the time of day, what time zone you were born in, exactly where you were born, and they chart something. If you've ever gone to an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer, they will chart for you. Your sun is in this house, your moon is in that house, your Libra's in, whatever it is that they're going to do. Had mine done decades ago. I don't remember all the details. But it's pages and pages. based on mathematical science. And then the gift of the astrologer is in the interpretation. Oh, the sun in this house, the moon in this house, the angle between this and this, here's what it means. Okay, so that's the astrology piece. Assuming that your reading has been done by someone who has both the mathematical and scientific background to actually get the reading right, and the experience and the wisdom and it's usually in a lineage in this country, typically those who do the depth of the astrology, the best astrologers, it tends to come from a lineage. It's those who are seeped in from parents, grandparents, ancestors who have done this reading. It's not just, oh, you go to school, you get a degree in doing Vedic reading, but it's a deep steeping in the teachings. That's the second point. The third point is, and then we'll come to the puja, is it is even as a science, it is based on probabilities. So let's go back to the moon and the ocean situation. Let's say that you do my chart, and here we are on November, what is it today? 6th, November 6th, 2024, and you do my whole chart scientifically, perfectly, and you come up to where we are today and where I am. And you also have access to all of the information about high tides and low tides. And you know that I can't swim, and you know that where I am is on a beach house. And I call you up, as people do to their Vedic astrologers, to say, hey, what's auspicious for me today? What should I be aware of today? And the astrologer says, tapping into everything, this morning is not auspicious for a walk on the beach. Or maybe they would say, there is a great likelihood of you having an accident if you are too adventurous in your morning outside activities. Better to stay inside in the morning, and if you're going to do things, do them out in the afternoon. Why? Because it's high tide in the morning, and I can't swim. And if I'm taking a walk on the beach in the high tide, there's a really good chance that I could end up swept away. And the astrologer has access to all of that information based on the books and the readings, and these days a lot's on computer, and the formulas and the mathematics and the science and all of it. So it's not that they're pulling it out of random thin air. There are reasons for it. It is inauspicious for you to be out in the morning today. Yeah, it's a high tide. You can't swim. But it's based on probabilities, meaning it's never in astrology, you are going to die today. It's, be really careful today. Today is a day it's not so auspicious. Don't start building your new house today like it's going to be a higher tide than usual. And that, remember, is just one tiny piece. They're factoring in all the different planets, so much more than high tide and low tide. I'm just giving one tiny little simplistic example. What they can do is they can give you likelihoods. This type of work, this type of relationship, this type of place is going to be auspicious for you. It's going to suit you well because you have this energy from Saturn and this energy from Jupiter and this energy from Venus, and here's how they relate at this time of your life. And after 10 years from now, you're going to be in a different phase, and the planets will be different, and that's going to be a more auspicious time for these things. That's what readings sound like. The pujas are typically pujas that have to do with what we call the Navgraha, the 9 planets, and the energies that come from the planets, and balancing them. It's beautiful. I'm always in favor of puja. I don't think there's ever any reason not to do puja. I think that if you've been given a puja prescription by a Vedic astrologer who really knows what they're doing, whose reading of you feels really right on, like in your cells, because I've had people tell me things and you think, no. And then you have someone and you think, yeah, this person, they're tapping into something. So make sure, like you would with any doctor. It's not like just because somebody has an MD or an MBBS that you would take any prescription they wrote you. You'd make sure, like, how does it feel to me? Does it sound like this doctor knows what they're talking about? Does it seem like they've understood my symptoms, my tendencies? So whether it's an Ayurvedic Vaidya who's giving you a prescription for medicine, or whether it's an MD who's writing you a prescription for medicine, either way. Whether it's a Vedic astrologer giving you a prescription for puja, make sure that it's someone you resonate with and who you actually have faith in. And then, if what they've told you to do is puja, by all means do it. Why not? What are you going to lose? Puja's beautiful. Puja says, stop your other daily work for a certain amount of time. Pray to Ganeshji, pray to Shiva, pray to Ma Durga, pray to Saraswati, pray to Bhagwan Krishna. Do a havan, pray to Ma Ganga. Do this japa. I mean, that's what our sages and rishis tell us to do anyway. So I don't see any downside at all in doing it. What I do get troubled by sometimes is the fear that sometimes astrologers can put in people. Because remember, it's about likelihood. And I feel like what's important to help people understand is, this is auspicious, this is not. This is likely, this is not. This is a strength, this is a weakness. But just because it's a high tide and I can't swim, doesn't mean I'm actually going to drown. Lots of people who can't swim takes walks on the beach in high tide, and the water only comes up to their knees and they're fine. So just make sure that it's not something that's being used to sort of scare you in some way. But if it's something that's just giving you beautiful puja, absolutely, why not? Nothing to lose. Beautiful. Yes.
Namaste. My name is Tiffany, and I am from the United States, and I would like to ask about what's happening in the United States tonight. So the presidential election has officially been called for Donald Trump, and there's a lot of people who have a lot of wisdom and experience that know correctly that there's going to be a lot of harm that comes with this new president in the United States. So my question is, how do we stay righteous? How do we stay in love with the country? How do we not turn off and run away, go to Canada, which is what we've done in the past, or just have a whole nation of expats? Like, how do we face this ethically and take care of each other? And how do we feel through our like literally feel through it, because it's so hard?
I think the first important step is grieving. For the expectation of something different, for the hope of something different. And then to come together. That we have no control over at this point, given what's already happened. The die has been cast for the president, for Congress. That's not anything that individuals at this point have control over. But we do have control over the ramifications in our lives, in our societies, in our communities. And just because somebody who's been elected to the head of the country might be prejudiced or discriminatory or chauvinistic or not have the attitude toward women, for example, that we would really like a leader to have toward women, toward minorities. That doesn't mean that we let go of our attitude toward minorities, toward women. Just because the leader says we're going to build a wall and keep them out, doesn't mean we have to build a wall in our hearts. We still have full sovereignty over our hearts, over our words, and over our own actions. And really to come together, I mean, my hope, my prayer, when I look at the results, is that the election results represent people's feelings about issues in the economy, issues around taxes, issues around things other than what in Sanskrit we speak about is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family. I would like to believe that people who voted for him did not vote for him because he discriminates against people of color, because he discriminates against people of different religions. I would like to believe that that's not the reason, and that maybe they just voted for him because of the decisions he's going to make around taxes instead. And that we still have the ability to come together as, as we say, one nation of different colors, different races, different religions. Just because he might be closed doesn't mean the people have to be closed. And just because he makes statements and choices and decisions in his own life and public statements around not respecting women doesn't mean, just because he's been elected, that we have to agree with those or make choices accordingly, or stop fighting for exactly what we know is right. Because there's a lot that happens on the ground in communities, in cities, in states, that has nothing to do with executive orders from the president's office. That which is happening in so many of our schools and our universities and our communities around the country are not coming based on what's written and signed in the Oval Office. It's coming based on what's in the hearts and the minds and the values and the lives of people of the communities. And so we have to stay anchored and grounded in what we know is right, continue to work for what we know is right, not lose hope, but also understand, okay, what is it? What is it about the people of the country that they are looking for, that he represents, that they are prepared to overlook the discrimination, that they are prepared to overlook the chauvinism, that they are prepared to overlook his attitudes and opinions toward minorities, toward women, toward the environment, toward the earth. Like, what else is it that people are wanting so much? And are there ways of providing it to them that don't come in a package wrapped up in objectification of women and building walls to keep out minorities? And to stay strong and to stay hopeful, and to know that this too shall pass. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
From Youth for Asia, so we are staying in different cities like Mumbai, Kolkata, Delhi, and you have given very clear direction to us to move from matter-based to divine illumination, ecology. But still, it's very difficult daily lifestyle. So, Guruma, what do you suggest, for people like us who have been working hard for the in the corporate world, to move from, let's say, matter-based to divine illumination and consciousness-based, along with the lifestyle, along with the daily lifestyle from morning till evening?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that I love so much about our Hindu Vedic scriptures and all of the stories and the teachings of Sanatan Dharma, one of the things I love so much about it is almost all of the rishis and the sages and the yogis were householders. And so many of the stories of our great leaders, great seers, they were householders, they had jobs, different jobs, they played different roles in societies. There were very few who played the role, for example, of Sage Nadaji. Very, very few and far between who were your celibates in the mountains. Most of the wise beings, even the divine beings, Bhagwan Krishna, Bhagwan Ram, were householders, playing their role. Okay, their role was king, warrior. But the teaching is really clear, which is in order to attain the heights of spiritual awakening, you don't have to leave anything. You don't have to stop your job. You don't have to leave your family. You don't have to move from the city into the mountains and into the forests. But you have to shift your mindset. I speak a lot about what I call the Hollywood to Himalayas mindset shift. It came to me as I was writing my memoir called Hollywood to the Himalayas, because that was literally my journey. But I mention it here because the Hollywood mindset is the mindset that most people in most cities all over the world live in. It's the mindset that says who you are is your body. What it looks like, what color it is, what race it is, what religion it is, what job it does, how much money it makes for the job that it does, how much is in its bank account, how big is its house, how big is its car, who does it hang out with, what does it wear, what parties does it go to, where does it vacation. These are the ways we identify ourselves. Who is it married to? Whose father or mother is it? Whose son or daughter is it? And when we identify as the body, we suffer. We suffer ignorance first, and from the ignorance, we suffer anger, we suffer greed, we compete. We bring harm to others. And that ignorance takes us farther and farther away from the truth of who we are. And then we have the Himalayan mindset that, for me, I learned by coming here. Many people learn by coming here, but they don't necessarily have to stay here forever like I did. You know, you come, you get charged, and the Himalayan mindset teaches you. You have a body, but you're not the body. You are soul. You are divinity, right? We say, aham brahmasmi, tattvam asi. Soham. All of these mool mantras, you could say, that remind us over and over again who we are. So you have a body, take care of it, no problem. Have it, a house, a car, a job, a family, a bank account, no problem. But don't identify as that. Do your duty, but don't identify as the doer. Identify as the awareness, the full awareness of the doing. Identify as the consciousness in which doing is happening. Identify as that divine through whose Leela it is happening. But you don't get stuck with the role. So whatever your role is, do it fully, sincerely, to the best of your ability from morning till night. But don't identify as it. Just keep remembering, oh yeah, I am soul, I am soul, I am soul. Not the role, I am the soul. And you just allow doing to happen through you. And that's the way. Beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Last question. Okay, sorry. Yes.
We are from Youth for Nation.
I'm sorry, from?
With chapters all over
Yes,
India.
the Youth for Nation, yes.
With chapters all over India in all the states.
Yes.
We have a mission, and we are reasonably elderly people with a lot of enthusiasm and experience. And we connect with the youth who has got a lot of energy and enthusiasm.
Yes.
You also have centers all over India. How do you suggest if that we can collaborate in some way or the other so that there is some synergy?
Beautiful.
And we move ahead at a much faster pace.
It's beautiful. We can talk about that alag se also. There's a lot of ways that we can. A lot of ways that we can. Definitely. हम बैठ के बात करेंगे उसको जब आप लोग भोजन कर रहे होंगे तो बैठ के we'll talk about all of the beautiful ways, because this is what's needed. With 65% youth in India, we have to come together. We have to come together and really inspire them. We give them the shiksha, but that shiksha with sanskars. That speed with the direction. Yeah, baat karenge uske baare mein. Definitely. Yes. Last question.
I am a soldier, and I consider myself lucky to have served in Indian Army for 41 long years.
Wonderful.
And I have no regret in life. I consider myself to be the happiest person. But only one regret in life, and that is that Gita is one which I didn't learn. Why I didn't learn Gita when I was a child? I started it about 3 years back, and I find I am more connected with the nation as well as with the society, because it gives solution to almost every problem in life.
Everything. Yes.
So I have started this, And I've started distributing, though my knowledge is very limited, but I've started distributing this to children, to elders in the society.
Beautiful.
And also a video, which through social media I keep on doing that. And my question is, first thing I feel, Hinduism is a bit, I think general public is very shallow about, we have very shallow knowledge about Hinduism, Sanatan. So the first thing what we should do is, I feel Gita should be the basic, the beginning that we should start every child, every man, every woman in this country. First thing they should do is learn Gita by heart and then proceed further. Rest of the other things can come later. This is my question.
The question is, do I agree with that? You mean?
Sorry?
The question is, matlab, do I agree with what you're saying?
Do you agree with this? That is what my question is. Do you agree with this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I would add another important part. Should the Gita be taught to all youth? Absolutely. I would even go so far as to say it should be taught to people of every religion. I mean, there is nothing in the Bhagavad Gita that says, this is the way you must worship God. This is the name or the form you must use to worship God. There have been so many brilliant philosophers from all over the world of every religion who have spoken about the power of the Bhagavad Gita. So yes, it is absolutely a tool book for life. I have never had a question that the Bhagavad Gita does not answer. So I think it answers not just almost all the questions, I think it answers all the questions. If you can't find the answer, you just haven't read it fully enough, but I'm sure the answer to everything is there. And yes, I absolutely agree, everybody should learn it. However, what I would say is, learning it by heart in Sanskrit is amazing, super powerful. Sanskrit as a language is super powerful for the brain. I would love if we could institute that. But it's not quite enough. There are a lot of people who can chant a lot of mantras who are not necessarily living the teachings of the Gita. And of course, this is true in any religion. There are people who can quote from the Bible, people who can quote from the Quran, people who can quote from the Torah, people who can quote from Guru Granth Sahib in perfect language, but who are not living according to those teachings. I wish that simply reciting the Bhagavad Gita actually was enough to make the teachings go deep into us so that we would live it. But it's not. It's a huge part of it. Just listening to the Bhagavad Gita be recited itself is very powerful. Reciting it is powerful. The sounds of the mantras themselves are powerful. And yet, what I would say is really important is, along with learning to recite it, actually learning what it means. So for example, if I don't speak Sanskrit, I could memorize the Bhagavad Gita, but you have no idea what it means. One of the things that used to always make me laugh when I first came to India and took a lot of taxis and places that you'd be in taxis, and the taxi drivers would always, in those days, they would have like just CDs that would play in the car, or even tape cassettes, some of them still had. And they would turn on either a CD or a cassette or some channel on the radio, some English song, because they think, we've got an American in the taxi and everybody always wants to show how they speak English. So they would turn on some English song to make me happy, like I would like the English music. And they would sing along with it. And it always used to make me laugh so much because it was people who didn't speak a word of English, singing English songs in ways that made no sense whatsoever. Like, sound was coming out of their mouth that sounded pretty much like the music, but they weren't actually forming words. Because when you don't speak the language, you cannot make the words make sense. So unless you're also teaching them Sanskrit language and Sanskrit grammar, such that when they learn it, then it makes sense to them. Otherwise, if you've got people whose native tongue is Hindi or Gujarati or Tamil or Kannada or English, they can recite it, absolutely. But they're going to recite it the same way that people are singing songs in other languages that don't necessarily mean anything to them. So I would want to make sure that they actually learned the meaning of it, verse by verse. But absolutely, I would be super in favor of all of the schools teaching the Bhagavad Gita line by line. You learn to recite it, and you learn what it means. And have a shloka of the week or of the day, depending on the age. I think it would be fantastic. Let's just make sure they actually know what it means, other than just people who are, reciting things but not living them. Yeah, but wonderful, beautiful work that you're handing them out. It's one of the best gifts that you could give anybody. Yeah, great. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening. Have a beautiful day to all of our family joining us online from around the world. And so much love to you all.